anything else, and then I just started touching things on my computer, and something happened, and then I couldn't unmute myself. Sorry. How's everybody doing? Good? Cool. Okay. Are we ready to get started with this presentation?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Give me just 1 second to get it pulled up. I'm going to share my screen with y'all, if that's okay. And so you won't have to look at my face while we do this. Cool beans? Great. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being here and for this opportunity to talk to you today about relationships and consent and peer pressure. My name is Joey Tucciaroni. I am a clinical psychology doctoral student at ETSU. I'm coming to you live and direct from Gallipolis, Ohio, where I am on internship currently. I do therapy all day. So I talk to people about things that are going on in their lives, things they want to work on, changes they want to make, things they're trying to understand and help them to live their best lives. Jessie, would you like to introduce yourself?
I already did while you were having technical difficulties, but as you can see from our pictures, we have our daughter, Millie. She's 4 now, and yeah, so we're in Ohio for some reason, but we live in Johnson City normally. What are you going to talk to us today about, Joey?
Let's talk about relationships.
Cool.
All right. So the term relationship typically refers to the type of connection between two or more entities, but I think it's really important to bear in mind that you also have a relationship with yourself. So as you can see, relationships come in several exciting flavors, such as romantic relationships, friendships, the relationship you might have with your neighbors. There are professional relationships, and importantly, as I mentioned before, the relationship that you have with yourself. So what I want to know from anybody who wants to contribute, what do you think are some common signs of a healthy relationship?
Laughter, that's a good one.
Excellent. What else?
Mutual trust. Building each other
up. That's great. Fantastic. Does anybody else want to answer? Cool. Well, these are all right. And you're absolutely right. So I'm going to go through a few different elements that you might expect in a healthy relationship. The first one I want to talk about is open communication. So in any healthy relationship, communication is safe. It's safe for everybody involved to speak their truths, to communicate their needs, to express their feelings, and to communicate and establish their boundaries, etc. In addition to that, we all listen to each other. Listening is important. Validating each other's emotional experience is important in a healthy relationship. It's okay to have different opinions, right? We're not always going to agree on everything. Different opinions are not met with disrespect, judgment, punishment. Rather, people listen to each other and then share their own perspectives on things, exchange ideas. And importantly, communication is reciprocal. People talk to one another. That communication goes both ways. So it's not just one person doing all the communicating, it's shared. I think we can agree that an essential part of a healthy relationship is trust. And so with trust, you've got to have honesty, and that honesty has to be consistent. And also, you're safe in that relationship. You trust other people in that relationship not to hurt you, rather, either physically or emotionally or otherwise. Once you've established your boundaries, you know that those boundaries can be respected and honored. So you trust other people in that relationship with those boundaries. You trust people in a healthy relationship to protect and respect your privacy. So you can talk about things that are very personal. They'll keep your secrets for you. And emotional vulnerability is safe in a trusting and healthy relationship. Not only is it safe, but it's encouraged. And people are willing to be emotionally vulnerable with you to let you know what's really going on with them. I think an often overlooked sign of a healthy relationship is that everybody in it gets to maintain their own personal identity. So you're not surrendering yourself to a relationship. Neither you nor your self-esteem are defined by the relationship. You are still you, an individual who is participating in the relationship. So your growth, your interests, passions, your path, those are still yours to pursue. And that goes for everybody in the relationship. And that what this means is that, while interdependence or mutual support, these are healthy things, you and everybody else in the relationship get to maintain your autonomy. That is your personal agency. And you are allowed to change. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to become and to explore also within a relationship. So in that regard, participants in a relationship, they see each other and care about each other as individuals, not these ideas about what you're supposed to be. So you don't get pigeonholed. You're not told that you have to be this one thing for the rest of your life. You're allowed to grow and emerge and blossom and develop. Finally, time apart is permissible. It's encouraged. It's important to give each other space to do that growing, to do that exploring, to do that being, or just to have a break, just to have time to yourself. Some more signs of a healthy relationship: playfulness. You got to make time for laughter and playing and fooling around and kidding and just having some lightheartedness. I don't know if any of y'all noticed, but these are some heavy times. And sometimes we can get swept up in everything that's going on and lose sight of what it means to laugh, be silly, giggle. Teamwork is important. Can you work together? Can you have common goals and then work toward those goals together? For that matter, can you have each other's backs when, as individuals, you are working toward things that are important to you? You stand up for one another. How do you handle conflict? In a healthy relationship, you handle conflict effectively. Instead of throwing insults or being insulting or disrespectful to one another, you recognize that you both have a goal, you both have a perspective, and if those perspectives are in conflict with one another, you talk it out, you handle the conflict, and sometimes you agree to disagree. What's important is that nobody's compromising something that is essential to them, to their values, to their well-being, to their sense of personal identity. And equality. In a healthy relationship, equality is essential. And what that means is a balance of power. It's a balance of representation. It's a balance of agency. It's a balance of making decisions that affect the relationship, making decisions that affect yourself. So everybody in that relationship, if there's equality present, are making empowered choices about the relationship and about their roles within it.
Thanks, Joey. So now, understanding healthy relationships, we can flip it and think about unhealthy relationships as well. So some red flags that you might notice that even if a relationship is healthy to start, they might pop up later as you both grow and develop and find yourselves. So some of these emotional red flags. So you can ask yourself, does being around this person genuinely bring you joy and comfort? Or do they make you feel bad about yourselves? People shouldn't make you feel bad about yourselves. When you're in a relationship, you want to feel safe and heard and important to that person. Next slide, please. And so some behavioral red flags, do things that hurt you make you feel unsafe or isolated? And are your boundaries respected? Are you able to communicate about these boundaries? Do they bully, pressure, coerce you into things? And next slide. And like Joey was just talking about with power, equality is important. Do you feel like you have an equal say in the things that are happening in this relationship? Do you feel marginalized? Do you have a voice? And can you pursue things that are important and meaningful to you and still, like Joey said again, maintain yourself? And so what types of things influence relationships? If y'all want to pop some things in the chat. Friends, power, status, peer pressure, personality types, parents. Yeah, so personality types, that's a good one. Like just because maybe you don't click with somebody and it's not that either of you are abusing your power, or sometimes you just have different personality types and it's hard for you to communicate. And we know that that's really important for a relationship.
These are great answers. Similarities, past experiences, absolutely. So brace yourselves. I'm going to get a little technical with you for just a moment, and talk theory. So I don't know if all of you have seen this model before, but it's cool. It's a complex model. And now that I'm seeing it full screen, I've noticed it, and I didn't make that, so I'm not taking the blame here, but somebody misspelled individual there in the center. So forgive them, forgive me. What you're looking at here is Bronfenbrenner's bioecological theory. And I'm going to try to not make this the most boring thing you've ever heard. It's actually pretty cool and pretty explanatory once you absorb it. So you see there in the center, that's you. And that sphere around you includes your immediate surroundings, like the microsystems in your life, your immediate family, your immediate neighborhood, the school you go to, your home, and so on. Beyond that are the links between those microsystems out there in the mesosystem. And so say the link between your neighborhood and your school, for example, or your home and your school, your family and your school. Now out in the exosystem are the links between, or those are the environments that you don't actually participate in, but which directly affect you. So that would include your parents' workplace, mass media, the kinds of services that are available in your community. You don't actually do anything with those. You're not there for that. Nevertheless, those things have an impact on your life. And in the outer rim, we find the macro system. So that would be the widely shared cultural values, beliefs, customs, and the laws that shape the society that you live in. the importance of this, the significance of this model is that human development is influenced by the transactions between these spheres. Those interactions and influences occur both within those spheres and between them. And at each level, we can observe power dynamics. And so let's take a pause to note that some groups have more influence than other groups over things like, say, the dominant culture and the laws that shape your society. And that disparity of power and influence is apparent at each level, and both within these levels and between these levels. So those who have more power tend to exert more influence and more control within and between these spheres. Power equals privilege, and privilege filters its way through legislation, through the media, through institutions, through systems, social hierarchies, and we can see this play out in interpersonal relationships. So take like a friendship or a romantic relationship, for example. That a relationship between individuals may easily reflect an imbalance of power that is apparent. I guess it reflects a wider imbalance of power. And this matters, right? Because a power imbalance within a relationship can result in disproportionate pressure or control over what you do, your behavior, over the choices you can make for your life, over the flow and quality of information that is available to you, over the kinds of social supports that you have access to, and over the different ways that you express yourself.
So a type of pressure that most of us are probably familiar with is peer pressure. And so we know that that can be spoken or unspoken. It can be direct or indirect, and it can be negative or positive. So we know that the people in our lives have influence over us, and because we listen to them and we take the things that they say into consideration, and it influences our behaviors, attitudes, beliefs, values, and the decisions that we make. So dominant social groups may leverage privilege to define normal. But I hate the term normal. So I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. So yeah, a lot of times we feel pressure to conform to something that many people believe should be the way that it's always been, maybe. But again, it's important to stay true to yourself and take all these influences in and consider them, but think critically and make the decisions that are best for yourself. Next. So consent. One of our favorite acronyms for consent is FRIES. So we know that consent is essentially permission for something to happen. It's an agreement. But without these FRIES, you're not actually giving consent. So consent should be freely given. It's reversible. You can say that you are okay with something, but you are free to change your mind at any moment. And other people are as well. And it should be informed. So you should know what you are consenting to. And Joey's going to get a little more into that in a minute. It should be enthusiastic. You shouldn't have to pry consent out of anybody. They should be excited to do whatever it is that you're talking about. And it should be specific. So you're only consenting to the things that have been communicated about. It doesn't mean just because you did this one thing, you're probably into this other thing too. You consented to the one specific thing, and you can have another conversation if you'd like to introduce something else. So, right, consent is communicated, it's not implied or assumed. So you have to be sure that you are communicating that you do want to do something, or listening that somebody actually does want to do something. And if you're unsure, just ask. You're like, are you sure you want to do this? And that gives the other person a chance to talk about the reservations they might have about it, or just to keep that communication going. So, can someone who's being pressured truly give consent? Nope. So a lot of times talking about consent, people say no means no. But there's a lot of nuance with that, just because if someone's not saying the word no, it's sometimes implied as a yes. But again, if you're unsure at all, just ask and make sure you have a yes, an enthusiastic yes. And talk about it, because communication is crucial. And you can't demand consent from anybody. You can have a conversation and talk about it, but ultimately it's that person's decision, just like it's your decision if somebody's trying to talk about something with you. And so, can you tell us a little bit more about informed consent, Joey?
I sure can. Thank you so much. Informed consent. Okay, so as I mentioned on the front end, I do therapy. That's what I've been in school learning how to do for too long now. And it's what I do all week. And the first thing that I'm concerned with when I meet a new client or patient is how I'm going to form a relationship with that person. So that is the nature of therapy. I make relationships with people, and oftentimes those relationships are very intense and feature moments of great vulnerability and the disclosure of very personal, sometimes painful experiences and emotions. Not everybody knows that on the front end. So what I'm trying to do with somebody is not just establish a healthy relationship, but to model what a healthy relationship is. And so my first order of business, after I greet them for the first time, is to sit down and inform them about what they can expect, to elicit information about what they expect, and we have a frank conversation about what we don't expect. And in this sense, I present a document that details all of this, and we talk about it. And in the end, I ask them to consent to the terms of the relationship that we are going to have. The important thing here, and this is called an informed consent document. The important takeaway here is that everything that we're going to do in that room is established, and that's a living document. It's not carved in stone. It is subject to change. They have the freedom to withdraw that consent at any time, but it's essential to me that they, whatever it is that they're consenting to, they know what it is that they're consenting to. So I have to be very direct, very thorough, very deliberate about what I'm telling them, so that when they do consent, it's an authentic consent. Because you can really only truly agree to something if you know and they're informed about that which you're consenting. And why is this important? Because it's a matter of personal agency. Knowledge is power, right? If you, one of the things I'm striving to do is to empower people. And in not just a therapeutic relationship, but in every relationship, a romantic relationship, any professional relationship, any friendship, family relationship, it's essential that you feel empowered, that you feel like you have personal agency. Knowing exactly what you're consenting to is personal agency, is empowerment. Only when you're informed can you make decisions based on your authentic values and to protect your best interest. So, to summarize, a healthy relationship is one that is free of pressure and coercion, that encourages your growth as an individual, that is empowering and supportive, that is validating, one where you feel safe and there's trust and there's equality, and that emphasizes consent. Jessie, do you have anything to add to that? Or am I missing anything?
No, I think that's pretty much it. But I did want to mention just like the type of clinical relationship that you have with your clients. It's really like clinical, like I just said. Like there's documents and it happens quickly because you only have so long with this person, but it still follows the same formula as all of our other relationships. They just take a little more time and effort to essentially come up with those documents verbally, and it's just cool to think about the same type of formula for every single relationship.
No, you're right. Um, People come to see me, and it's a very deliberate thing. They're there for a reason. They might not know what to expect, but they do know why they're there. And you're exactly right. Everything is documented. I don't know about y'all, but when I hang out with a friend, I don't go and write a note about it afterwards in the electronic medical record, right? And I'm not worried about like ethics violations when I'm hanging out with my friends, or anything like that. So I mean, it's a highly structured relationship in which everything that I do is very deliberate, and for that matter, it's a very one-sided relationship. I know so much about my clients because I'm trying to create a safe space where they feel comfortable and in control, where they can be vulnerable, where they can be forthcoming. And they know next to nothing about me except for what I think might be therapeutic to share with them. So in a sense, there is an inherent inequality to that relationship. I do everything I can to minimize that inequality and to restore a sense of empowerment and control. And I'm very open about those power dynamics as well. But in a way, it has to be this way because we're trying to eliminate variables in a therapeutic relationship, because ultimately I am trying to model a healthy relationship. So I'm not going to relate to them in the same way that I might casually relate to somebody else, or the way that I would relate to Jessie at home. Certainly not to the way that I would relate to my child. So yeah, excellent. Thank you so much, Jessie.
Yeah, and someone in the chat just said no relationship is completely perfect, and that is so true. Every
Absolutely.
relationship takes work and communication and all the things that we just talked about. And conflict is healthy. So
It is. And I just to piggyback on that, the expectation of perfection in a relationship can be a wedge in a relationship. Why strive for perfect? You're exactly right that no relationship is perfect. So why expect perfection? Expect growth and expect things to go wrong every once in a while. And expect that you and anybody else in that relationship can learn from situations where things go wrong, for sure. Are there any questions, comments? I got time. I'm into conversation. And if not, that's cool too. I can just kind of hang out and stare awkwardly into the camera like 20 minutes. Nah, I'm just kidding. Well, anyway, thank you all so much for this opportunity.
Someone just asked, is that
Microsoft or Google PowerPoint? Ha! Um, it's PowerPoint. It's like Microsoft PowerPoint. Thanks. It's what came on the computer. It's what I had. Um, I don't know. I haven't really experimented with anything else. It's just, but thank you. All right. Well, again, thank you, Jesse, for helping me out with this, and thank you all for being rad, and thank you, Jillian, for this opportunity. This is a blast, and I hope you all have a great day. I emailed Jillian a kind of a relationship workbook that you might be interested in working through. It's just various kinds of worksheets to help you conceptualize the relationships in your life, and maybe to critically evaluate them to see if they're working for you. And I guess that's one thing we didn't really touch on. If a relationship is not working for you, and if it's something that is toxic and is making your life worse, or you feel like it's not worth the energy, it's healthy to walk away from it. And you know, that's its own kind of process, but and sometimes it can be a painful one, but it is healthy and fine and acceptable and adaptive to end a relationship that you don't want to be in. So that's just food for thought. And thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
It's a pleasure. Take care.